Welcome back, y'all, and happy Sunday. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Today, I want to take a look at how Tennessee's roster compares to the championship teams, right? Like, how do we look in each position group? Because we've talked a lot about how the overall rosters look for these teams, but we haven't done a real breakdown on each individual group. So I think it's going to be very telling from that perspective. And I also will give a game breakdown and preview for the national championship. I won't be picking games today. I'm going to wait for P for that. Maybe Bray might be joining us. We'll either have that coming out later on today or tomorrow, but please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. So first and foremost, let's start off right here, y'all. Let's start off with the actual position breakdown. So this is all coming from 24/7 Sports, and it will be how the rosters look heading into the season for each individual team. Now, what you're going to see is Ohio State, Notre Dame, Tennessee. The first three is all 2024 preseason. And then I have how our roster will look in 2025, just so that we know how we're looking moving forward and how well do we match up, versus these other, or, versus these two championship teams. And I do have a key down at the bottom for everybody just to kind of help you out. Green means that you are winning in that category. The yellow is going to be second place. The orange is going to be third place. And then red means that you're dead last. So, as you're looking through this, number one, I can tell you for Ohio State, you can see all the green in almost every single position. They are at green. They have a 5-star at every single position, so they are loaded. And if you come all the way down to the bottom, you're going to see the total for their blue chip caliber players, and that's what we're talking about today. So they have 68 total blue chip caliber players, at least heading into this season. Now, we all know that the rosters change because of the transfer portal and all of that, but I think that this is just a good way to see how well they're going out and getting players. It takes years to build a roster that is this deep and that is this talented. Notre Dame is at, I believe, 44. Or I'm sorry, I believe that they are at 54 blue chip caliber players. And you can see that they have 7 5-stars and 47 4-star, which is crazy. Tennessee is at 40 for 2024 heading into the season. We have 7 5-stars, okay? And this is according to 24/7 Sports. This is preseason. This is not going to be for the transfer portal players, right? It's not going to be what their transfer portal ranking was. It's going to be what their ranking was coming out of high school. But Tennessee had 7. You're probably wondering, how do we have so many? Well, Dante Thornton was actually a 5-star, according to 24/7 Sports, coming out of high school. If you actually look at Tennessee's wide receiver room, what do we have right here? We had 3 5-star wide receivers, and it looks like also 3 4-stars. So last season, according to 24/7 Sports, the wide receiver room should have done a lot of very nice things. And then if you're coming over to 2025, how the roster looks at this point, we have 6 5-stars and 37 4-stars. So I believe that we are at like 43 blue chip players for that roster. But I think that this is very, very telling. Obviously, if we're just talking about the Buckeyes versus Notre Dame, you can see that the only place that I have Notre Dame winning at would be on the offensive line and with their running backs. They've got 6 4-star running backs at least heading into the season. So very deep there. Obviously, with playoff football, championship football, once you get to this part of the season, you need to be able to block well and you need to be able to run the football well. Feels like Notre Dame can definitely do that. Now, some people might be asking, who is the one 5-star running back for the Buckeyes? Well, it is I can't think of his name right now, but it's I think his name is Travion. All right, so it's not Quinshawn Junkins. Quinshawn Junkins coming out of high school was only a 3-star. So saying all that just to say, everywhere else, you can see that the Buckeyes, they are a loaded roster. But that right there is how the roster breakdown looks. And obviously Tennessee needs to play catch up. We have a ways to go. And for us to get to where the Buckeyes and Notre Dame is at this point, it's probably going to take another 2 or 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to have 2026 needs to be a great class. 2025, that class was really good. I can't remember what the blue chip ratio was, but it was over 50%, well over 50%. And in 2026, we could get somewhere around 80%. The blue chip ratio is just comparing how many players inside of that class or how many players on your roster are 4 and 5 stars compared to the 3 stars or the players that aren't ranked, all that type of stuff. Tennessee, we've got to stack up classes back to back to back. It's hard to do in the transfer portal era for whatever reason. Ohio State is showing that they're still able to sustain most of their players. So that's about how it all looks. You know what I mean? Still have a ways to go before we're on this sort of a level. Let me go ahead and get to this chat right here that's coming in from Lamont Jr. saying, "Go Big Orange." Yes, sir. We in the building. So let me get into a little bit of this breakdown stuff, and we can always come back and talk about some Tennessee stuff. But let me start to talk about some of the breakdown with Ohio State's offense versus Notre Dame's defense. So first and foremost, okay, you can already tell that Notre Dame's defense is really good. Every single category, whenever you see green, okay, the numbers that are green means that they're winning. The numbers that are red means that they're losing. But Notre Dame has a very good defense. It's underrated. I don't think enough people are talking about it. And actually, going back and watching film, which we will pull up some clips here in just a second of how their defense plays, they are spectacular. So let's start off with the total offense for Ohio State. They're ranked number 30th, and Notre Dame's total defense is ranked number 9. Ohio State's scoring offense is ranked number 12, and they are number 10 in sacks given up. They're only allowing 0.9 sacks per game. So that's less than a sack per game. Doing a very good job of, I think pass pro, but also getting the football out of the quarterback's hands quickly. That's a major part of this. So Notre Dame is number 2 in total defense, and this is over the course of the season, y'all. And they are number 37 is just as far as sacks that they get every single game. So they're averaging about 2.5 sacks per game. The pass rush looks really good. So passing numbers, Ohio State is ranked number 38th in the country as far as passing offense. Notre Dame's pass defense is ranked number 2. The thing that sticks out to me the most with this category is 19 interceptions. 19 interceptions. This is a group that takes the football away. And again, we will get into why I think that is and, some of the keys to the game and things like that for both of these teams. Let's talk about the rushing numbers. Ohio State is ranked number 60, and Notre Dame's rush defense is ranked number 41. Third down conversions, Ohio State is at number 57, and Notre Dame is at number 5. So, I mean, again, they're really good at pretty much every single category, except for the rushing defense isn't spectacular, right? It's really good because it's 134 teams. It's very good at number 41, but you would want to see that at least be, I think, in the top 25. So, the rush defense is not great. I think actually Penn State in their playoff game versus Notre Dame, they rushed for like 140 something yards in the first half or something crazy like that. So that could definitely be a spot that the Buckeyes could find some success at if they want to stick to the running game. All right, let's come on down to the red zone offense for Ohio State. They're ranked number 43. Red zone defense for Notre Dame is number 8. And turnovers, Ohio State is ranked number 39 with their offense. And Notre Dame's defense is number 1 in the country at generating turnovers. So this right here is going to be a major factor in this game. It's always a major factor in any game. But first, let's pull up some of these clips with Ohio State's offense. So what they like to do, y'all, is a lot of gadgetry. You know what I'm saying? Like they find ways to get the football to their playmakers. Obviously, their wide receivers are just incredible. They've got 3 of them that are really good. They actually have, more than that don't play as much. They've got 2 very good running backs that are proven that they can do it. At the Power 4 level, I think that their offensive line is doing a much better job than they did in the regular season. If you're just talking about playoff football, they're doing a much, much better job of run blocking. Their pass pro is always very good, but the run blocking is starting to look better. And this right here, seeing this screenplay, and if any of y'all watch Texas versus the Buckeyes, then you will understand this one came right before the end of the first half, and you can see that Texas is playing a cover 2 to try to stop everything deep, but you got to come up and tackle. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you have playmakers like this, you get the football in their hands, then they can make magic happen. So I think that they really have everything that you would want and expect out of an offense. I think that Howard is a guy that he has all the tools. A lot of people were down on Howard after that Michigan loss, but I kept saying I think he's better than people are giving him credit for. Now, is he some, like game breaker? I don't think so, but he operates their offense very well. He can make all the throws, and he's got plenty of skilled players to get the football to. So let me show y'all some of the things with Notre Dame's defense. So number 1, they love to run man-to-man coverage. They run man-to-man coverage over the course of the playoffs. It's at like 70-something%. So that is a very high rate of running man. But if you're watching them, the first thing that you'll probably notice just in looking at them is on the outside. That's where the man coverage is at. So it's really with their secondary players. They'll have 4 guys that are typically running man. They're cornerbacks. They trust them, bump and run coverage. They have a safety. Both of their safeties can play man. Their linebackers can also play man. But typically what you're going to see within their man is more of like a one high look, and you'll see a lot of kind of like a man and zone mix. So you'll see their linebackers playing a zone right in the middle of a defense to try to stop the slants and all the stuff coming to the middle. So it's not as true of a man as some people think. But one of the things that I love about how their defense plays is, number one, their cornerbacks are really good. Like really everybody. Their coverage is so sticky and they know what's coming. They're very well coached. They know the different route concepts that are going to be coming. So they tend to stay on top of the routes and they almost run the routes for the offense. But I love the simple fact that they have their linebackers playing like this middle zone, because something that I've heard several people talk about is, how is Notre Dame going to play man-to-man versus this great wide receiver core for Ohio State? How are they going to cover drags and things like that? Well, those linebackers, if they see a drag, you cannot run a drag in front of their linebackers, because they'll, number one, bump you, they'll hit you, and then they'll carry you, right? So they're looking for that stuff. They're looking for, hey, where are these drags coming from? Either side. Again, they're very well coached, so they'll probably know what side it's going to be coming from based off of the down and distance formation, all that type of stuff. They can also spy that quarterback. So Will Howard can and will use his legs some, but they're going to be there as spies, playing inside of the zone. But something else is that if they're not playing, man with a like middle zone sort of a coverage, then you're going to see linebackers blitzing. Their linebackers are very good at blitzing. They have a linebacker that's almost running at 22 miles per hour. Like their linebackers can move. They can run. They're very athletic. And they also do a thing where linebackers blitz, ends will drop into flat areas. That also helps out with those drags and things like that. So I love the versatility of this defense. I think that they tackle well. They close very, very quickly. Like we talked about, 19 interceptions. They are very opportunistic. And whenever I'm looking at their secondary, really from top to bottom, a lot of folks think that the Buckeyes have the best secondary in the country. But for me, I would say that at this point, Notre Dame's is probably better than theirs from top to bottom, because as we will get into here in just a minute, if you look at the Buckeyes secondary, their safeties are good. They've got a couple that are really, really good. Some other ones don't look as good in pass coverage, but their cornerbacks are a true liability. So you don't see that with Notre Dame. They've got 3-4 cornerbacks that are, like for real, NFL caliber, man-to-man coverage, bump and run, all of that type of stuff. And then their safeties, I think, are on par with where the Buckeyes is at. So this is an elite defense for Notre Dame. I think that where people are, maybe missing a mark at with saying who's going to win this game is not understanding that, man, Notre Dame's defense is going to have something drawn up for Ohio State's offense. Something else that I love about Marcus Freeman is he will not let you dictate terms to him. He's going to dictate terms to you. He's going to tell you, hey, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z based off of what we're going to do, because we're not going to shy away from who we are. So I love those things. And, this chess match versus Golden and versus Chip Kelly, it's going to be a hell of a one. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a very, very good one. But I'm excited to see how this whole thing plays out. And something I've said over the course of the season, just in looking at the Buckeyes offense, is the way to beat it is with man-to-man coverage and also with cover 2. So if Notre Dame's not running man, they run cover 3. But I think that in this game, we could see some more cover 2. We saw Texas have a lot of success running 2 safeties deep. Okay, trying to make the Buckeyes drive, have to dink and dunk all the way down the field. I think that is a very, very good plan. But because Notre Dame is a very good man-to-man team, I think that they will be able to run more of that, get the pressure on Will Howard. I think that one of the best ways to stop the wide receivers and all the skill players on the outside is to get to the quarterback. If you can get to him on a consistent basis, then those guys don't really matter. So we'll see. I think we'll know that pretty early on if Notre Dame can get to Will Howard, if they can do that on a consistent basis. I think doing that early is going to be huge. Get to him early. He's going to start to get flustered. He does not play as well. He does have a tendency to throw the ball into coverage. But for me, the biggest key I would say for the Buckeyes offense in this game is going to be, can you sustain a running game? Because like we just talked about, for Notre Dame's defense, they're not the best as far as stopping the run. And if they can, if the Buckeyes can keep that running game going, then I do think that everything else opens up somewhat. The thing about it is, again, Notre Dame's already running one high looks because they play so much man-to-man coverage. So if they're able to run it, it doesn't mean that Notre Dame's going to necessarily change what they're doing. They can't really change too much. They're already in a run stopping defense and a get pressure on the quarterback sort of a defense for most of the game. So if the Buckeyes can establish that running game, I think that they're going to. I mean, it's going to be very, very tough for Notre Dame to find success. But I think for Notre Dame, they have to, number one, definitely stop the run. And I think that they need to be very opportunistic in getting some turnovers. They, I think, need at least one turnover in this game. I would say they probably need to. I don't know if you necessarily need to have 2 or 3 sacks, but you need to be getting consistent pressure on Will Howard and have him not be as accurate as he has been over the course of the season. I think he's, at like 71%, something like that. So he's doing a phenomenal job from that perspective. Let me get to some of these chats. Let me see what y'all are talking about right here, right now. So from G Money 24 saying, do you think Vols need to move on from Joey Halzle, or do you think he will make the needed adjustments? So, okay, I think that's a really, really good question. And number one for me is I don't know how much Coach Halzle is calling plays. I don't know how much of that is Coach Heupel's calling the plays, and he's kind of got Halzle there so that he can make more money. Because it feels like to me, whenever I'm watching pre-snap, I always see Hype with the card up over his mouth talking. Who he's talking to, it could be Nico calling the plays in, or it could be the coaches. I have no idea. But that's number one for me. I think that the play calling wasn't great. I think that the offense, the offensive scheme was not great. We've got the plays that we've talked about before that we need to run more of just to open things up. We have those plays, but we just didn't run them as much in the bigger games. Like I talked about with Marcus Freeman. He's not going to let teams dictate terms to him. I think that our staff on offense and defense allowed the opposing team in the biggest games to dictate terms to us. That's the next step that this staff needs to take. So, very, very long-winded answer just to say if Coach Halzle is the one calling plays, I don't like whoever is calling the plays. But if it's not him, if he has some better thoughts on how we can have better route combinations and things like that, then he's probably fine. But whoever is calling plays, that needs to be, I wouldn't say that they need to be fired, but they need to make some changes. And hopefully the staff is going to be willing to make those necessary changes for the offense to be as productive as it was in 2022. All right, let me also get this one from G Money 24 saying, I'm worried we lose guys like Faison if he doesn't. That's a good point. I was actually looking at the number one wide receiver from 2027. I can't think of his name right now, but he's from South Florida. And we talked about, hey, Tennessee needs to go out and recruit South Florida a lot better. Let me see if I have his name in here. Okay, so his name is Ethan Feasters. Okay, 6'1", like 180 pounds, really fluid wide receiver. But one of the things that he talked about was liking that Tennessee runs the spread offense because he runs the spread. I think that he's from Texas. His high school runs that spread. And he talked a lot about Coach Pope. He said, well, Coach Pope doesn't really like to go to the transfer portal. And I mean, I'm glad that he thinks that, but I haven't seen that be very true necessarily. Well, maybe so, because this season haven't seen a whole lot of transfer portal movement from the wide receiver room. But those are some of the reasons that he did like Tennessee. He said that he liked Coach Pope. It kind of feels like there is a perception that's out there with offensive players, whether that's quarterback, whether that's wide receiver, of these higher end guys, that they do believe that, hey, this is an offense that can, make me into a star, that I can put up some crazy numbers in. We have to show and prove that. I think this is going to be a huge season on and off the field for Coach Heupel and this entire staff. So hopefully we can make those changes. I think that those changes are going to be coming. I think that these guys get it. So the next one right here from Scott V saying, Halzle was not qualified to be an SEC OC yet. Heupel promoted him, so don't blame him for taking the job, but I doubt he brings anything to the table other than what Heupel has taught him. So that's another very interesting point, just because I think that, I think that's very true. Like, if you look at Coach Halzle, most of his coaching career has been up under Coach Heupel, if not all of it. So does he have any of his own thoughts? You know what I'm saying? That's another issue. If he is just going to be kind of like Coach Heupel 2.0, then yeah, for me, if I'm the one calling the shots, I would say, yeah, like, we need to make a change, but I'm not calling those shots. So do I think Heupel would do it? No. I mean, Heupel has not shown that he's going to switch up anything. He wants to keep things as consistent as possible, which I like, but I don't like it when, I mean, look, the team did very well. We made it to the playoffs. We won 10 games. Really, the offense was more of the problem over our defense. But, I like the consistency. Will the coaches adapt? Can they adapt? That is what we need to know. And if they can't, then Coach Heupel is going to have to go out and find somebody else. And if he doesn't, like let's just say if we take a step backwards in 2025 because Heupel won't make the necessary changes, then in 2026, that season, he's got to make the changes. If he doesn't, then he will not last here long. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I'm at with it, and I think that that's how things will go because you can't just keep on doing the same stuff and expect anything different is going to happen on the field. From Lamont Jr. also saying it's definitely put up or shut up this year, no doubt, for sure. Okay. All right. So let's talk about Notre Dame's offense versus Ohio State's defense. So right here, what we're seeing is it looks a little bit different because actually Notre Dame is winning in some of these categories offensively. My biggest question in this game is going to be, can Notre Dame score? And if they will score, how will they score? You know what I'm saying? Because Ohio State has a very good defense as well. So starting off up at the top, total offense for Notre Dame, they're ranked number 52, and Ohio State's total defense is ranked number 1. Scoring offense for Notre Dame is actually ranked number 6, and that was very surprising to me whenever I saw that stat line. They're ranked number 43 as far as sacks given up. They're averaging about 1.3 sacks given up per game, and Ohio State is number 1 in scoring defense, and they're number 3 in sacks per game at 3.4. That pass rush is pretty serious, and I didn't truly believe in it until we played them. And I still, it was really only dominant versus the right side of Tennessee's offensive line, whether it was John Campbell, whether it was Dane Davis, and they switched those players. You know what I'm saying? Like 33, he moved to the left side. He didn't really get any pressure on Lance Hurd, like at all. Lance Hurd was throwing him around. So, same thing with the guy, JTT, 44. Moved around. He had a lot more success on the right side of our offensive line than he did on the left side. So I think that Notre Dame's offensive line is more consistent than Tennessee's is, and I think that they should be able to hold up pretty well in this game. But let's keep this thing going. So as far as passing offense, Notre Dame doesn't pass the ball that much, but Riley Leonard, he can spin it. They just haven't really had to. You know what I'm saying? So they're ranked number 102 in the country as far as passing offense goes. Ohio State is ranked number 1 in passing defense. Rushing offense, Notre Dame is ranked number 14, and Ohio State is ranked number 3. Third down conversions, Notre Dame is at number 61, and Ohio State is at number 30 on defense. Red zone, Notre Dame is at number 78, and Ohio State is at number 2. Turnovers is the only category that Notre Dame is actually winning in. They are at number 38. They don't turn the football over very much, if at all. And Ohio State is at number 57 in turnovers for their defense. So with all that being said, let's take a look at Notre Dame's offense. And let me just kind of tell you what I see from them. So number 1, they are a run-first offense, which I think is good. They do a very good job, running that football. Actually, Riley Leonard, their quarterback, he has the most carries on the season. They're not scared to run him. He ain't scared to run. He'll make those tough runs. Then they've got Jeremiah Love, as their running back. He would be, I guess, ball carrier number 2. Does a phenomenal job. He has really good speed. He's a real NFL running back. Like we touched on earlier, they have 6, or at least to start the season off, they had 6 4-star caliber running backs inside of that room. So very deep at that position. It's going to be big for them to be able to run the football on the Buckeyes defense whenever they're running 2 high safeties. Because like we talked about, or actually, I don't know if we've even touched on this just yet, but Ohio State likes to run a lot of cover 2. Over the course of the playoffs, it's been more cover 2. Coach Knowles typically is more of a man-to-man guy. The reason that they're not running more man-to-man right now is because their cornerbacks are trash. Their cornerbacks are terrible. It's a very deep room from a talent perspective, but they can't cover a soul. And even within their cover 2, let's actually pull up. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up for y'all here real quick. So this is their defense. Even within their cover 2, you'll notice that their cornerbacks are playing off. Like they're playing 7 to 10 yards deep. That's almost unheard of. Like you do that in true passing situations. They're doing that in almost every situation because the rest of their defense is so good. It's like, hey, look, we can't let our cornerbacks get beat deep, even though they're playing in the flats. Like we just cannot allow that to happen because there are some things that you can do on offense. Just, you could run 4 verse, you could run 2 verse on that same side. the cornerback has to carry that all the way up the field, or that's wide open. So they don't want to see that happen. They do not want to see them get beat deep. Their cornerbacks are really bad. So they've been running a ton of two deep over the course of the playoffs, and they've been successful. So for Notre Dame, a key for them is going to be, can you establish the run, stick to the run, have success running versus that too high safety look? Now, I don't know that Ohio State would stick to that too high look in this game. They'll probably start off that way because they've had success. They'll probably try it and say, well, let's see, how do we measure up? Can we stop this run with, 5 or 6 players inside of the box? If they can do that, then Ohio State's not just going to win. They're going to win very, very big. But I think that what's going to happen is Ohio State is going to have to bring a safety into the box to slow down Notre Dame's running game because they use their quarterback so much. It's just a pure numbers game. If you've got 5-6 people blocking for the quarterback versus a 5-man box, that's pretty much automatic. Something that I noticed in Notre Dame's previous game versus Penn State, whenever they went 3-by-1, especially if it was like a medium down in distance, it was a quarterback run, and they didn't shy away from it. They just kept on doing it because you can't stop it. There's something else that I love about Marcus Freeman is that whenever something works, he sticks to it. He doesn't have to get overly fancy or nothing like that. He will stick to it. So I think that if Ohio State can stop the run with 2 safeties deep and with a little bit of a lighter box, Notre Dame is in trouble. But once Notre Dame, if Notre Dame can get that running game going and makes Ohio State have to bring that safety down into the box, you've got the one-on-ones that you want on the outside. Now, what's going to happen here, y'all, and I can guarantee you, the cornerbacks are going to be playing off because Ohio State either runs cover 2 or cover 3, right? So cover 2 means that the cornerbacks are close up, playing on the outside. You've got 2 safeties playing deep. Cover 3 means that the cornerbacks are playing in a deep third. So they want to make sure that the cornerbacks are always playing deep, but the dink and dunk, hit the hitches and things like that, quick outs, that's there all day long. And I think that works very well with Notre Dame's scheme and how they like to play football. So this one is going to be very, very interesting just from a chess match perspective. And we will see what happens, as this game kind of plays out. But I do think that this is one that we should know pretty early on. And I also want to say this. I think that if Notre Dame wants to have a shot to win this game, they're going to have to 100% get off to a pretty good start. You cannot let Ohio State get off to the fast starts that they've gotten off to versus, our Volunteers, and also versus Oregon. Wasn't as good of a fast start versus Texas. I think that they might have been winning 7-0 coming out of the first quarter. And if you can hold them off from their opening scripts, then you're going to be just fine. I think that Marcus Freeman and his entire staff, because it's not just on Freeman, he's the head ball coach, but man, their coordinators are really good. I'm very impressed. I love watching coaches who know what they're doing. I can always be a fan of almost any team except for Georgia. If they find a way to out scheme teams. I love the chess match of this stuff. So, I'm kind of a nerd whenever it comes to all that. So anyway, my whole point right there is I think that Notre Dame will not come out and play that sort of a passive script that you see a lot with coordinators on defense, especially in these playoff games. Well, at least this year in college football, you've been seeing it where, hey, we're going to kind of play off. We're going to see what you're trying to do, and then we'll, make the necessary changes. I think Marcus Freeman, I think Golden, I think this whole staff is going to come out, hey, look, we're coming after your throat. We're coming to the quarterback right now. Like, if y'all hit some passes down the field, you're going to have to be accurate, and the quarterback's going to have to stand in there and be tough and take some shots. That's the sort of a game that they're playing. For me, that's how playoff football should be played. That's what you see in the NFL. I'm sure most of y'all been watching, NFL playoffs. What do you see them doing? They're blitzing. They're bringing pressure. Like, they're going to hit you, and they're going to hit you hard and make you feel them. And so Notre Dame's doing that exact same thing. So I think that they will come out and have a very good game plan to slow down Ohio State's offense. My question is going to be more of what are they going to do offensively? I've seen a few things that I really like from Notre Dame's offense, like versus Penn State. They went after the linebacker 41. They said, hey, look, he's not that good in coverage down the field, so we're going to make him have to cover down the field, and we're going to throw it right to him. And Ryan Leonard had some beautiful passes. So it's little things like that. I think that this game is really going to come down to a lot of coaching. Ohio State is definitely the more talented team. They were one of the most talented teams, if not the most talented team in the entire playoffs. But I don't think that this one's going to be just a straight up blowout like some people think. It's going to be, I believe, a very, very good game. And I would not be surprised to see maybe Notre Dame pull it off. Again, I'm not going to fully predict it. We will be doing that later on. But let me get to some more of these chats right here. Let me see what everyone's talking about. So from Scott B saying, I think Notre Dame wins it with defense and running game. Yeah, I think that's how you want to win in playoff and championship football. So Scott, I think that says a lot. But on the other hand, like what he's talked about, Notre Dame's run defense is not that great. They lost one of their best interior defensive linemen. And let me actually pull this back up for y'all real quick so that y'all can see how the talent looks for Notre Dame at interior defensive line. So let's look at defensive tackle. What you're seeing right there is not a whole lot, right? Is one 5-star and only two 4-stars. So there's not a lot of depth. Actually, this is one of the categories that I have Tennessee tied in first place with Ohio State for the upcoming year, just out of these 4 teams. So, I think that says a lot. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm sorry. I was looking at Tennessee stuff. Notre Dame's ruins only has 4 4-stars. So one of those guys will not be playing. Okay. So that says a lot about how does your run defense look. The difference, though, with Notre Dame is that they've got a lot of very, very good linebackers. And because they blitz so much, it can throw things off. Like something that we did not touch on is that the Buckeyes have started to, in playoff football, they're running a lot more power. They're running a lot more gap scheme, which means that offensive linemen, tight ends, they're pulling, right? So they're pulling around to the hole that they're going to run through. And whenever you blitz, you can really disrupt that stuff because you have linebackers that are a lot faster than those offensive linemen pulling. You can beat them to the spot. You can blow those plays up. So I think that Notre Dame has every single chance. And if they can't do it, then it's going to be a very, very long day. But this is going to be a good one. I'm very excited about this game. All right, let me get to the next one right here from my dog Green Wave saying, imagine if we had played Notre Dame's schedule, we'd be there and probably without that loss to NIU. Yeah, I think that if we played their regular season schedule, we would probably have ran those tables. But I'm gonna tell you, honestly speaking, as much as I hate to say this, like y'all know, I love my Vols. Some people call me a homer. I'm not a homer. I just have faith in what I see. And what I saw, I don't know that we would have beat Penn State. I don't. I don't know that we would have. I think that we are a little bit further away from some of these teams than I had thought, before we headed into the playoffs. And it's not, obviously their roster is going to be better. Tennessee still has a ways to go to catch up our roster. But for me, it's just more about the scheme. It's more about the mindset of our coaching staff. Said it a few times on this stream. With Marcus Freeman, he's going to dictate terms in every single game. We have not done that. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll come out with a good opening script versus Georgia, and then whenever they switch something up, we don't adjust back to it. Like we can't find a way to, hey, we came into this game and our whole plan was to run the ball. We can't find a way to stick to the run. I really think that was one of Tennessee's major downfalls is we didn't stick to the run enough. Now I know versus the Buckeyes, Dylan Sampson is down. I don't care. I do not care. Run the ball more, slow down the tempo. Once you see, oh my gosh, they're going through our defense like butter, you got to slow the game down. That's why I've said it a million times. The tempo can work against us a lot. It's not just about the tempo. I think most people understand that now. You've got to be able to control the game. You've got to be able to dictate the game how you want to do it. Not, oh, we're a tempo team, so we're just going to keep on going fast. Even though we're losing, our defense is getting beat down, we're going to keep on going fast. No, like you have to adjust. So for those reasons, I don't know if Tennessee would be in the national championship. I mean, I don't know if we would have beat Georgia. This staff hasn't shown me that they can go beat Kirby Smart. Marcus Freeman wasn't scared of him. And listen, if you want to win me over, go beat down UGA. Don't be scared of Kirby Smart because he's just a regular coach like everybody else. It's a mental thing, I think, for this staff where we start to just do stupid stuff. Marcus Freeman ain't doing that. I'm just going to tell you straight up, he's a better coach than Coach Heupel is at this point. That's just what it is. His roster's better, but it's not as good. It's not better than Georgia's. It's not better than Penn State's. But they won both of those games. They found ways to win. They, make the necessary changes at halftime or whenever to win ball games. Coach Heupel's not doing that. So I don't know that we would be in the same spot that Notre Dame's in. Just that's just how I feel about it personally. From Lamont Jr. saying they need to get consistent pressure on Howard to have a real shot. 100%. Like, if you get pressure on him, he is super average. There's not very many quarterbacks that don't turn into being average or just terrible versus pressure. But he's one that he don't like to get hit. He does not like to get hit. I promise you. He hears footsteps. He'll be seeing ghosts. That's what Notre Dame has got to do, and that's what they have done over the course of this year. You know what I mean? So I would expect more of that coming up tomorrow. Let's get to the next one. From Turkey Slammer. What's going on, Turkey Slammer? Saying, watching OSU whoop us in person. I don't know how Notre Dame beats them. OSU 27-20. Hey, you know what? You could be right. I'm not necessarily, I'm not going to pick who's going to win. But my whole thing is this. Styles make fights. Everyone has to plan until they get hit in the mouth. But I do think that Notre Dame matches up well versus the Buckeyes. Most of that is based off the coach and it's based off, how they play. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to see. We're going to see, man. Let me get to the next one from Lamont Jr. saying, yeah, Penn State would have given us problems for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who do we have to cover that that big old end that they got? This like 6'6", 260. Who's going to cover him? We don't have a linebacker that could cover him. We don't have a safety that could cover him just from a size perspective. Shoot, their pass rush looked really good. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I think that we've got a little ways to go in some of these categories. I'm just gonna be honest with you. We're going to have to open several things up. From my dog D Taylor saying, if Samson had played, we would have only lost by 17. Yeah, I think that if D Sam played, the game would have been a lot closer. And honestly speaking, this might sound crazy to y'all, but I think that if he was fully healthy, not fully, but if he was better than what he was, if he was just like a normal level of healthy, I think that Tennessee, that game would have been a lot closer. I think it would have been closer than 17 points. Honestly speaking, I do. Because if you can take time off the clock, if you can wear their defense out because they don't rotate that many bodies, Tennessee had all of the opportunities to go into that game and at least keep it somewhat close. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, no, there's no way. We're not as talented. I mean, it's true. Nowhere near as talented. Nowhere near it. But, and that's more just looking at it on paper. We've got guys, we've got several guys that I don't even have listed right here for Tennessee that were some of our best players because there were only 3 stars. This is just about 4 and 5 star guys, but there were only 3 stars. They play like 4 and 5 stars. So let's keep in mind that we had a defense that was very capable. We had an offense that, I mean, dude, look at our wide receiver room. Like, I know I've talked about that before, but look at how many it was dudes in there. We just did not coach very well. There's several things that we could have done. Having D Sam leaning on our running game more, that could have kept the game a lot closer than what it ended up being. But it is what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? Coulda, woulda, shoulda. We lost. From my dog, the wise man, saying this is the year to get Kirby an unproven quarterback and in early draw plays in our favor if we can get going quicker this year. Yeah. I thought that this past season was a year to go get Kirby, even with Carson Beck, because Carson Beck didn't look good versus really anybody except for us. He looked good versus us. He looked good versus Texas. I don't know what it is about UT teams, but he was very average to below average versus everybody else. Everybody else. You've got to get consistent pressure on these quarterbacks. If you feel like, hey, this team is more talented than us, and if we sit back, what's that mean? It means that we're probably going to lose, because we're sitting back and we're just kind of like letting things happen. You can't do that. You've got to force the issue and say, oh, you're not going to be able to get the ball to your guys. I think that we could have got them last season. I think that we could get them again this year. Obviously, their quarterback's going to get better. Stockton, he ain't no world beater. The only thing about him is that he's a little bit more mobile. And I think that Tennessee tends to, well, it actually kind of feels like we struggled more versus the true pocket passing quarterbacks for some reason. But I would say that it's more difficult to game plan for the quarterbacks that have a real threat to run. But that's a game that we could win. The offense has got to get going. That's my biggest concern versus UGA. Excuse me, as I feel like they have such a beat. They have such a beat on what Heupel's doing. I feel like Kirby Smart is in Coach Heupel's head. So that's why I would love for him to go out and find somebody from the outside that doesn't have that fear, that's not scared of him, that's going to say, oh, wait a second, you're overthinking the hell out of this. Just run it right at him. Run the ball right at, you know what I'm saying? Like, just simplify it, because it does feel like we tend to overthink it versus UGA. So we'll see, man. We will see. We definitely need to make several changes. From G Money 24 saying, thoughts on the Duke running back that got the Vols prediction the other day. Yeah, so I like him a lot. Star, I like him. You know, he's a depth piece. He's a veteran. You know, we haven't really broken down his actual film, but we've shown y'all some of the clips. He's kind of like typical of what Coach Heupel has had inside of his running back room. He's listed at 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds, so a little bit bigger than average, but you know, and I would say not as fast as what we normally have, but just his style of run where one cut and go wants to get vertical. He's not overly shifty. He's just a very solid player. He's just a depth piece that can come in and fight for some playing time, you know, fight for potentially a starting spot. I don't see that happening. I don't think that he would start over Bishop or over Peyton Lewis, probably going to be running back number 3, but we needed a running back number 3. If he knows his role, that's, you know, we're going to be fine, because Tennessee, our running backs always put up numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like, we always do a good job running the football. That's part of our offensive scheme. So, you know, I think that he will help us from that perspective and make us feel a lot more comfortable about what would happen if one of our other guys got hurt, you know? So it's just about depth for me. So from Greenwave saying, this is a really good chart for sure. Yeah, thank you for that, man. I spent a whole lot of time on this, just to let y'all know. I spent a lot of time putting together all these numbers. You know, I stayed up pretty much all night to put that together for y'all, but I'm glad that y'all do enjoy it. And let's get to Lamont Jr. saying, most important game next year is UGA. Okay, and that game is at home. In my opinion, we beat them, we have a good shot at the playoffs. Yeah, so that's a game that I don't even think is a necessarily, you know, it's not necessarily a must win, because it's so early on in the season. So that one's not, I mean, of course, I want to beat Georgia all the time. Y'all know I hate Georgia. But I would not consider that a real must win. You know, I think Alabama's going to be better. I think Florida's going to be better. Those might be more of the must wins for us. And those are both road games. So we got to be able to get over those road woes that we've had since Heupel's been here. From my dog Volcano saying, man, that 2026 class, Josh Heupel might take the next step in recruiting. Yeah. So 2026 is already top 3. I think that it's going to finish top 3. It could potentially finish top 1. But, you know, we got to keep on building on that. Like, we got to build those classes back to back to back. We got to hold on to players by playing them more. We can't just let them sit and rot on the daggone bench or just sit and transfer out. So that's something that we talked about yesterday. I want to see us play some of the younger offensive linemen, because we need to have that depth. Like, and players are looking, they're seeing, hey, are you playing these younger players? That's something that the wide receiver from 27 that we talked about said. He was like, yeah, they don't really like that. You know, they don't want to go get wide receivers from the transfer portal. That's a big deal to these kids. You got to play them. So, yeah, I think that that's kind of, you know, that should be what the game plan is. Hey, let's let's rotate in guys. Let's make sure that everyone can play, and let's retain. Like, I'm almost to the point. Yeah, you still got to supplement from that transfer portal, but I would be so happy if next season, I don't know that this would happen, but if next year Tennessee doesn't really need to go to the portal, when it's like, oh my gosh, we got to go add this and add that, that will let me know, oh yeah, we're on a really good path now. Because if you look at the Buckeyes, like, look at their roster, that takes years to build up a roster like that. Notre Dame, same thing. It takes years to get to that point. It don't just happen in one class. It takes 2 or 3 classes to have that sort of a roster. So that's where I hope Tennessee gets to. Okay, so it looks like that's all the chats. That's pretty much it, y'all. I just wanted to, give y'all a good look at how the roster looks compared to the championship teams. Give y'all some, just like early thoughts, a little bit of a game breakdown for how this whole matchup looks. I do think, again, just to kind of recap, my keys for Notre Dame on offense would definitely be you've got to establish the running game versus the too high safety look, because the Buckeyes have been doing a whole lot of almost like an 8th grade team that's just loaded with talent. Oh my gosh, we're way more talented than anyone that we're going to play, so we can run very basic coverages. We're going to play off. We trust, 5 or 6 guys inside of the box to stop the run. The safeties will come down every now and then and help out. That's how they're playing. They're winning with talent. They're not really too much winning with scheme. They're not really winning with coaching. They're going to be challenged coming up. So I think that, maybe a few gadget plays here and there. Make sure, Notre Dame needs to take care of the football. If you can run it, on that too high and force the Buckeyes to have to bring one safety down, you get the one-on-one coverage on the outside with cornerbacks that can't cover a single solitary soul. You will find plenty of success getting your offense going. And, I think that for the Buckeyes on offense, they're going to have to be able to establish their running game. They're going to have to be able to pick up blitzes. They're going to have to be able to win one-on-one matchups on a consistent basis. And I think that Will Howard is going to have to play very, very well. This is a game that I think that, if the running game isn't going great for the Buckeyes, Will Howard is definitely going to have to be that dude. He's going to have to put the team on his back. He's going to have to take those shots and all that. He's going to throw the ball into some very tight windows. This right here could help him get his draft stock up a lot, or it could drop his draft stock significantly. I'm telling you that right now. But, I would say that for Notre Dame on defense, you have to get pressure on Howard. You've got to slow the running game down. You can never let the Buckeyes get going running. And obviously, you're going to have to find a way to try to slow down those wide receivers if you're not getting pressure. But the pressure can offset that. So I'm very much looking forward to it. But that's going to be it for this one. And we will have some more coming out again either tomorrow or maybe later on tonight. But thank y'all so much for joining us. Hope that y'all did enjoy it. Please do make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, other volunteer fans, and other college football fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.